Sometimes you want SVF files to load images dynamically from a disk. If image URLs is hard-coded in the SVF file, it would be static and you will read the same file each and every time. A better way is to keep the URLs to the image file in a text file and load that text file. For our SVF file to find the text file, we could hard-code the path to that, but again, that isn't a very elegant solution, and the text file needs to have the same name and location each and every time. So the goal for this episode is to pass a parameter from a JavaScript, and the parameter contains an URL to the text file, and the text file contains URLs to an image. After reading the URL, the SVF file loads the image and shows it on the stage. This is the way it should be done if you're about to integrate with other systems like content management systems. So you can download the source code for this episode from GitHub and you will find the link below. Or you can just follow along. The first thing I do is to copy the code from episode 1. This, and I make a folder for my files and I will call it, guess what? Files. And I will place it alongside my output SVF file. The next thing I need is a text file for the text file needs to load. So I think I'll create that from within my development environment, like here. And it goes into the file folders. I'll create a new folder and I will call it images. And I will, instead of using the text format, I will use the XML format. And this way I don't have to invent my own format. And I can reuse a lot of the content management system can export as XML, and I got something readable and industrial proven. So I have already prepared an XML file. So we just paste in the content here. This one we will look at later. So we have the header for the XML file. I have a tag called images and I have an image URL. If I had many images, it could go like this. And if I have sounds, I could have another tag called sounds. And I could put the sounds in here. But for now, I just go with one image file. Like this. So the next thing is I need to tell my SVF file where to find that file. So I'm creating a variable called XML URL. And I pass the path for that. I just give it's a hash. So it's like this, and I give it the path. So that was files / images. XML. And I think my project window is a little too small, so I make it a little bigger. 800 times 800 pixels, and I will see if this will build. And I will see if it will load. So here we go, everything goes as it should. It says, hello HaXe. And I don't need it to say that, so I read it. So the next thing I need is a function for loading the params. So I made a function called load params. I call it from here, and I like many small functions so I can actually follow the flow in my application easily. So that's going to be a private function. And gonna be don't return anything, and I have to fix this. Here we go. So now I'm ready to load my parameter, and I think I will load it into a string. So I made a var URL, and that's gonna be a string. And I will just paste it in some code that does the trick here. So, like my stage is in the lib parameter, and I have the lib current, that is my current flash file. It has a loader info and it has some parameters, and that one of the parameters is the XML URL. and that's the parameter I defined there. So if I run this and I trace this one, trace my XML URL, we build it, and we should now see the URL and the name of the file I'm about to load. So that works as it should. So before I move on, I will actually change this to an if. And if it's not loading, it's nil. It's null. So this is a check to see if I'm actually loaded. And then I don't try to load something I don't have. So far, so good. So to load a file, there's a few libraries I need. I need a loader library, I need a URL loader library, I need a URL request, and I need an event, because that's what's happened when it's loaded. So I'm just importing those libraries there. And then I need to create a URL loader and a URL request and pass the string to the URL request. So I got my string, I pass it to my URL request, I have my loader of type URL loader, and I have my URL request. So now I'm ready to load it. But before I can do that, I need to tell the loader where to return the content of the file while loaded. So I will create a private function called something like on XML loaded, and I will check if it's actually loaded by tracing it here. Loaded. So now I'm ready to tell the loader where to return to, what function to return to. So I add an event listener, and it will be called on the event completed. That's the event the loader triggers when it's completed, and this is the function pointer to this function. So if everything goes as it should, when I load this, it should say loaded. It didn't, so something went wrong. I can see what happened. I forgot to tell the loader actually to load. So that's what's gonna happen on this line. Loader, load the URL request. I build it and I try to reload it. And it says loaded. Okay, now we're going. So the next thing I need is to pass the XML file. And when this function returns, it returns with an XML. So first of all, I need to extract that data from the XML, from the event, and I can do that like this. So I got the data, and if we build that, we can see what goes out of it. Here we have my XML file, but I got my header tag on it as well. So there is a way to pass an XML file and just get the content of it, and it's like this. It's very nice. It's built into HaXe, and I can just make a var of the type, call it XML, of the type XML, and make it, that was wrong, and make it equal this. So now it should build, and I can trace my XML. And if I reload it, now I just got the content of the XML file. That's very nice. So now I got my XML file, and I want to actually pass it so I can see what's in it. To do that, I make a private function called, let's call it pass XML, and it takes the XML, and it's a type XML, and it returns nothing. So now I can call this function with my XML file, and I will really quick go through the XML parser here. So I'll copy in this code. So if we look at this, it says for images in XML elements named images. And that is actually this tag called images. For that, I have this and I say for image element named image URL. I got this one. I could trace that here. So let's see what happens if I reload this. I got my image URL, but still I got the tags on it, and I want to get rid of those. And there's a way to do that. And I can go and say, I want the image URL, I want the first child's node value. So that should be better now. Now I got rid of the image tag. So now I'm ready to load my file. I actually have the URL for it. So here I want to make a function, a private function again. Called load image. What? And it's actually just checking the URL as a string. So that's the function I want to call here. So now again, we pretty much have to do the same as up here, but there's a little twist on it. Because the loader, let's create a loader. And I will call it HaXe image. That was the name of the image file. I don't have the image file in here, so I'm really quickly, I just want to copy a file in there. That's the HaXe image. I could call it anything. I make this variable of type loader, and I make a new loader. And then I need a URL request again, and that's pretty much the same as last time. But this time I'm just passing in the URL to it. And then this time I don't need to make a return function for this. I can just call it directly, and that's what I'm going to show you. So I just call it directly, but where should it return to, or what should it do when it's loaded? And this is kind of tricky with this point, but I can just add it to the stage. And now if I build it and I reload the file in Firefox, here we go, it loads the file. And this is the way that should be done.